Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next session. So, on this session, what the agenda is today is I'll walk you through the lead to cash process. We'll review some of the CPQ data model. Then also, I'll walk you through a Salesforce environment on how to create a quote. So, when we think about Salesforce CPQ, we can't just start at CPQ. We need to take a step back and look at the whole process, which actually starts from lead to cash. So in Salesforce, we have leads. And essentially, the lead is, if you want to think about it, if you have this bento box company and you want to sell to other organizations like elementary schools or corporations, you may have heard that a certain elementary school could be potentially interested in your bento box business. So once you have that lead and you're able to qualify that lead, you'll move over to create an opportunity because this is a serious potential business venture. And so you'll have the sales rep in your organization, they'll be working through that opportunity. And so as you can see here, we've moved from the lead to the opportunity and on to the quote. This is where CPQ comes into play. Keeping in mind, CPQ is a robust tool that allows users to be able to quote without having to use outside pricing calculators, and they can configure that quote however they want. As you can see here on the slide, you have many different things in these bento boxes, right? So some organizations, they may not want to have star-shaped carrots. They might want to replace it with octopus hot dogs. So you're giving the sales rep the flexibility to make that selection and select whatever their potential customer is interested in, and then you can return a cost for that product rather quickly. And then once you have that quote and you may send that off and they agree, now you have orders and fulfillment. And then moving on to invoicing and billing, keeping in mind that Salesforce does have another product, Salesforce billing, that can be purchased as well to take care of all of your billing, or you can also use another system, another ERP system to take care of billing. And then lastly, your post sales. So this is any service, customer service that you might need to provide. So moving on to the next slide, just quickly, there are many, many objects in CPQ, but I want to keep it as simple as possible. As you can see here to the very left here, so we have our opportunity. This is gray because this is a standard Salesforce object, as well as the account, product, price book entry, and the price book. So these are all standard objects. Where CPQ comes into play is quoting. So we have a new quoting object that once you install it, that object will be there. And then you have the quote line, which is essentially the products that you need to add to the quote. It's all of the lines on that quote, right? So if you're looking at an actual quote record and you start to add your products, now you're adding lines to that quote. And then you have the opportunity to group those particular lines on that quote into a quote line group. For now, that's all I want to discuss on the object model, just to keep it nice and simple, but we'll expand upon the rest of the objects in future videos. So moving on into our Salesforce environment. So right now, as you can see, I'm on the CPQ app. You should see some familiar tabs here, your account and opportunity. And then you also see a quote tab here. So just starting on the opportunity, right? So I'm going to click into an opportunity. You always want to start here to create the quote because this is typically where most businesses create their quote from. They create it from an opportunity. So as you can see, this opportunity is here. We already have some information on the opportunity. And now let's say the sales reps, they want to actually quote the potential customer. So as you can see here, there's a button here. It's labeled new quote. So if you click on new quote, you'll see some fields here. And keeping in mind, when you think about a quote, what is a quote, right? So we have a Salesforce quote record, and then you also have an actual physical document that you can actually send to the potential customer, right? And on that particular document, it'll have all of the details that you need to present to them. But for the purposes of this video, we're just looking at an actual quote record. So just to get the sales rep started quickly, we only have just a few fields here for them to populate on the initial creation. Keeping in mind, selecting this as primary is key, right? Because when they create a quote, if you can see, let me just X out of this. So there's currently 2 quotes here. So you can have more than one quote on an opportunity, but the only one that will eventually matter at the end is the one that is primary. This is important because once products are added to the quote, you want all of that information from the quote to feed over to the opportunity, like the amount, and then all of the products you also want to feed over to the opportunity. So if you were to create a new quote, you always want to have the sales rep select the new one as primary, right? Unless they needed to go back and change it, that's fine. You can also have this defaulted for them as another enhancement to automatically select primary on any new quote, right? So if there was a previous quote and a new one was created, then when they create the new one, that one's primary. They can always go back and change it if they needed to, but just one less click. So then you want to have a start date. So if this is a subscription, then you want the users to enter a start date and an end date. Let's just say that this is for about a year, and then save. So this is just to quickly, and you see this pop up, you can just go ahead and click on the quote record. And so there's a lot more details on this quote, right? So you know how I mentioned that you can create a quote document. Well, once we get to the quote document creation, just understand that all of this information on that document can start to pull from the quote. So we have all of the address information and various details on this quote. Some things you may not ever want the customer to see, right? Some of the pricing details, they may not need to know all of the calculations. But this is the purpose of this record, right? To store all of the important information, and then later on you can choose what you want to have on the contract. So that's it for this video. And the next one, the next lesson, we'll get into a little bit more detail. But what I would like for you all to do is go into your Salesforce sandbox, your Salesforce CPQ sandbox, and just practice going to an opportunity, creating a quote, entering in some information.